and gentlemen, I present to you now something the likes of which you've never seen before. The most dangerous combination of professional sports. The skill, the strength, the stamina, and the ability of two men blended together as one. The most exciting combination in the history of professional wrestling, twin sons of different mothers.
Chris Adams and Mike Current.
Let's body slam competition.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the show this week. We are going to be talking the history of the AWA territory that Vern Gagne made famous there years ago when he broke apart with the NWA and started his own show. Mike, I know you were around back then, right? You remember all that, don't you? And just as I cued Mike on that, he went to get a call that was calling in. Perfect timing on my part there. AWA, Mike, are you with me again?
I'm back with you, Chris. I had to go and get one of the most illustrious people that we know, Mr. KJ Petts himself.
You know, it's funny. Right as I queued you up for the zinger of you were around when Vern Gagne started the AWA, you disappeared on me. I was like, man, you just can't get good help anymore.
Maybe in a previous life. I was actually out being good help. I just can't help it that you are blind and can't see the call board lighting up.
I saw the call board, but I thought we'd make him wait just a little bit and let him sweat it out a little bit. You know how it is. It's Killjoy we're talking about here.
Ha 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 ha.
Welcome back to the show yet again, Mr. Killjoy. We are so glad to have you on with us today. We have a special show this week. We're talking the history of the AWA, and you, like myself and Mike, are a big fan of the old territorial days, and we actually have a great guest that's going to be on this week who participated in those AWA days in Road Warrior Animal. He'll be on with us in a few minutes. As of right now, though, to start, Mike has got a good report from us. He went to watch the Dirty Roads wrestling show that he puts on where he lives there. What is it, the IWCW, Mike, or ICWC?
Yes,
I forget what it goes.
It's the IWCW. It's the Independent World Class Wrestling.
Well, tell us all about it. How did it go?
Well, I got down there, and, of course, you set it up to where I was going to give my name at the door, and Dirty Rhodes said he was going to come and take care of me personally. Now, I had a lot of fear that I would be getting broken bones and blackened eyes. When a man like Dirty Rhodes says he's going to take care of you, you just have to wonder what that actually means. So I took my wife with me because she's mean and all. And I figured if Dirty Rhodes starts beating on me, at least she might be able to take it. So we get down. We get down. It's about 2.5 hours from where we live. We walk through the door, and there's this wonderful, nice lady there, and I give her my name, and she said, "Now, who told you to give me your name?" And I told her, "Well, Mr. Dirty Rhodes." And she said, "Well, I'm his wife. It's so nice to meet you." And she was so nice and sweet. Dirty came out. He talked to me. He showed me around and showed me the ring. And then he did the most unprecedented thing. The man was just so gracious and extended so many pleasantries to me that he allowed me to be on the commentating team for their televised event, even though I tried to warn him that I had a face for radio and that the network may have to blur me out.
How did the matches go, Mike? Were they pretty smooth? I mean, I know you mentioned earlier that he did some problems. I think there were some people that had to call out last minute and couldn't make it, but he still put on a great show there. About what, total of 9 matches and all, you said?
Amazingly, Chris, he had 6 people cancel on him, and he told me this right at the beginning. He said, "You're going to see why." And he wasn't lying. When he came in, he told you and I that this was wrestling the way we remembered it. He was absolutely correct. This was hard-hitting, gut-busting, just action. And it was a lot of just good, basic wrestling, Chris. There was a lot of young and hungry talent. There were some veterans there. He had a nice mix of things. The show went very well, and you really got invested in it. There was a lot of hard smacks. Man, you saw the welts and the marks raising up on these guys. And there was a couple times that people did need some legitimate help out of the ring and into the back of the arena.
Well, he did say when he was here with us last time that, in his time, in his ring, you had to be a man to be in that ring, and he expected the same out of his wrestling promotion he puts out. So he lives up to every word of it, it sounds like.
I'm telling you, Chris, it was a pleasure to go to. It was, like I said, it was wrestling the way we remember it. They got in there. There was a lot of good back and forth. They had a nice tag match with guys that like I said, he had 6 cancellations, but he still managed to put on, I think it was 9 or 10 really good matches. He had King Shane Williams and Queen Taylor there. He was really a great performer. Damian Wayne was another one. There was a Vinny Dalton known as Boss Hogg. This is a big dude and very intimidating. Wears a gas mask, but I couldn't ever figure out what the gas mask was for. I don't know if somebody in the back was stinking or what the deal was. Dirty didn't seem to have an idea, and he said he's going to have to ask him why he wears that gas mask to the ring. But it was it was absolutely a wonderful time. I was very taken back by all the pleasantries that were extended to me. They're having another show on the 10th of December, and I do believe I'm off of work that weekend, and if so, I plan on making the trip down to take in the next show as well.
Well, that sounds good. I'm glad you had a good time with it. Sounds like something I'd like to watch myself. I wish it was, down here in our area. And Killjoy, can you picture Mike at the announcer's table trying to call? I asked him earlier, was he the good old JR or was he the Jerry Lawler? And he didn't take credit for either one of them.
Yeah, I'm going to go with David Crockett. That's what I'm going to go with. He's probably
We're going to call him David Crockett.
The David Crockett. That's what I'm thinking.
Mike tried to call himself a Mike Tenay or Gorilla Monsoon. But,
No,
whatever,
more like the Mongo. More like the Mongo
know.
McMichael. That's what I say.
He might be more of a Taz kind of guy when it comes to the announcing table.
You know what? That's not the first time I've been compared to Steve Mongo McMichael. Back in the No Holds Barred Wrestling page, Chris, do you remember when I was with Lorenzo as part of the Four Horsemen and they told me that I wasn't a horseman, I was like Steve Mongo McMichael?
Yeah.
And I went with it, though. I got the sock puppet down, named it Mongo, the evil master.
Oh, yeah.
The rest is history, man. The rest is history. I will say that I did have a good time. I did meet one of the guys was on the commentating team also was Emmy Hauser. Emmy Hauser. He's one of the wrestlers for the IWCW, and he says that he's got this high IQ, but I'm not really sure that he understands what the initials IQ stand for. But I want to try to get him to come on the podcast and just explain to me how. I mean, he was throwing out numbers, but they were going up and down. Something about Ross Perot and a chicken. It was quite. He was quite the character, and he got in the ring and he won. But man, there was this whole foot on the ropes thing. He was using all the leverage he could get, and then he had these horrible pants, Chris. I mean, you know how you got Cesaro that comes and rips off the pants?
Yeah.
Well, he had them tearaway pants, but he definitely wasn't Cesaro underneath of them.
There are some things left better undescribed, Mike. We'll just leave it at that. We don't want to know what he looked like under his pants, but it's all the same with you.
Okay, I had to witness it, so I'm gonna let you guys in on all the glory and grandeur that befell upon my eyes. And now I have to get back and have a stronger prescription put in my contact lenses.
I say photos or Facebook or it didn't happen.
Hey, Chris has got some good pictures that my wife took.
Oh, yes. He definitely sent some pictures my way. I got those that day. I didn't get to look at them, all of them, that day they came in. I had to look at them later in the day, but he's got them. I tell you what, if you go through them quickly, it's like it was a camera which takes like multiple pictures fast in a row. You can make a little animated GIF out of it if you wanted to. Watching someone getting slung into the turnbuckles at one point and hip tossing another, I believe, or something. It's like really cool there. Well, some good stills as well. And to top it off, I think Mike's wife got hit on, and he didn't see it.
No,
I asked him would he kick his butt otherwise, and he said no, he didn't want nothing to do with it.
It was actually their number one contender for their championship, Joseph von Schmidt, known as the Red German Knight, I think was what it was. Dude's like 6'6", and has about as much body fat as Ethiopia, and he blew her a kiss, and she blew one back. There's nothing I can do in that case. I mean, if he blew me a kiss, I'd probably blow one back to him too. You're like, "Hi, how you doing?"
I think you're safe though, Mike. I'm pretty sure he wasn't going to blow you a kiss.
I don't know. He might have. Maybe he likes the fuzzy look.
Now, did you ask Mr. Dirty Rhodes, would he be coming to Florida my way anytime soon with that wrestling? He knows I want to see it.
Well, he knows you want to see it, Chris, but he also knows that you're in Florida, and he just doesn't know if that's really where he wants to be, anywhere near you. KJ, Chris talks a big game, but he doesn't go out. I mean, I drove down to the show. I drove my 2.5 hours. Chris could have added 10 hours. He could have came.
Well, this is my theory on anything. If delivery can't get to me, I'm not going. You know what I mean?
That's so basically you're saying you're never going to come and visit me, KJ. That really hurts. that really hurts my heart, man.
No, I love to travel. I would be there if I could. Definitely. Chris is a slacker, and we know this, so
yeah.
Love him anyway.
Chris is a slacker, yes. Chris was just taking one of the calls coming in. We have Mr. Jeffro the IQ calling in with us tonight as well. He has maybe a question and a comment here in a few minutes he wants to put out there. And, of course, he is Jeffro the IQ, so he is the all-knowing when it comes to wrestling, whether it be NWA, AWA, WWE, WWF, All Japan, Little Midget Wrestling in Oklahoma, whatever it may be, Jeff knows it.
Glow, wow.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. So glad you could join us tonight and grace us with your presence, sir.
I'm glad that I'm not on a call so I can be a part of it.
Well, if you're not on a call, that means nobody's getting hurt, so that's always a good thing then.
Peters, I told you last week you were going to be sick today. You don't listen.
I know.
You don't listen.
I wanted to be sick. My body wanted me to be sick, but my bank account said no.
Well, see, we could have got Chili Ray Phillips to send you a topless picture, and then you would have been sick.
Oh, yeah. You make a valid point. You make a very valid point.
The bank account does have a strong pull on a person, though.
It does.
Yes, it does.
You try to say you're sick, car payment says, no, man, you ain't sick. You're working overtime.
But Chris, I would like to get back real quick and just say that it was an excellent show. It was everything that Dirty Rhodes promised. It was wrestling the way we remember it, the way that it should be. There was no 4 or 5 finishing maneuvers and kicking out at 2. When the man was down, the man was down. And a couple of times, it didn't look like the man was going to get back up. Then, like I said, there were guys there young and hungry, and you could see some inexperience in these guys. I'm not going to say that everything was fluid, because he told me to be honest. But when you're out there and you're seeing something, that's what's going to happen. You're going to see something that just, hey, that didn't work out, but this guy, this is his first match for them. This may be only the 3rd or 4th match he's ever done. You get somebody who comes out and nobody even knows how to say his name. He goes out there and he puts it on. And then you got guys like King Shane, who comes out and you can tell, he's been down that road a few times and he knows what he's doing. Damian Wayne was the same way. They had the Beastmaster, Rick Link was there. He was whooping up on somebody named Zool, and that poor old boy had no idea what had a hold of him. And by the time he got back to the back, I think he had changed his view on religion. He was praying to some deity to come and save him. Because I saw it. I witnessed it. It was like 370 pounds of man that the Beastmaster just muscled out of the ring clear onto the hard, exposed floor. And when he hit, I swear it registered on the Richter scale. Princeton, West Virginia had absolutely witnessed its very first earthquake in years.
And see, I had to miss out on all of that. Man. Next time, I'm just making the road trip and getting it over with.
Yeah, right, and pigs will fly.
Well, yeah, we're going to go ahead and just jumpstart a little bit here and start discussing a little bit of what we were going to cover here tonight with the AWA. It's going to be our topic of choice this week. We covered NWA quite a few weeks back, and that was a fun talk we had. And this time, we're going to go the Vern Gagne route. Now, one thing we did learn, or I learned anyway, I think you guys already knew it, but the AWA kind of spawned off of the NWA back in the, I think it was right about the 50s when it started, or close to 1960, one of the two. And
it was, I believe it was 60 dead on.
Yep, right there, 1960 to 1991. And that's about the time it started. They had lots of great talent come through there. Anybody from, Vern Gagne himself brought his kid, Greg Gagne, in. Kurt Hennig originated from there. Scott Hall. The Midnight Rockers. Our guest of the night that's going to be on here shortly was one of the best tag teams. The best tag team probably to run the area there, the Road Warriors. I mean, it's a lot of great talent came and gone through there, no doubt. I think Mike
was always.
I think Mike got Scott Middleton on the line there. Hey, Jeff, go ahead and talk about AWA for just a second while I grab this call. It's on hold, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
AWA was always one of those things that, I always enjoyed watching, obviously in later years I started watching it after it had already been defunct for a while because I was, I think, like 3 or 4 when it went under in 91. But they show all the classic reruns on ESPN, and I'd watch it just about every day, and I've read the history of it. I enjoy the AWA. Not as much as the NWA, but I enjoy it. It was wrestling as I think it should be. Just my opinion.
Hey, look, I always called it one of the big three. It was always WWF, NWA, AWA. Now, thanks for making me feel old, because I was watching it when you were 3. Thanks. But I caught it with what it was AWA. I mean, I caught it up until probably around when Lawler was the AWA champ. But I think one of my favorite matches from there was when the Rockers went against I think it's Summers and Rose, and it was a brutal match for the Rockers. I don't think that they realized that, and it kind of put the Midnight Rockers on the map because it was so stiff and brutal that they bled, and they weren't teeny boppers. You could tell that these guys were legit.
Are you talking about that lightweight Playboy Buddy Rose?
Yep. Yeah, the one. Yeah, the one that he could still do push-ups and sit-ups and not die.
Exactly.
And then you want to talk about an underrated talent? That guy, Buddy Rose, was so underrated. He was so good on the mic. He was such an entertainer, and it's a shame that most people who are like, oh yeah, the fat guy, toward the end of his WWF career. But I kind of miss the 70s. I kind of wish that I was able to watch the AWA in the 70s and early 80s, to be quite honest, because I think that was like the best time for the AWA was in that particular era. You got to see a lot of talent come in. Vern was very good on having people come in. Andre, John Studd, Jesse Ventura and Adonis were champions. It was a great time for wrestling around that era.
So, Killjoy, it's funny you mentioned that time frame and that era and talking of tag teams, because we do have a guest that's coming on with us here, and I'm going to go ahead and bring him on with us now. We're going to be talking about some tag team stuff, especially around the AWA there in that time. And coming on the show with us here now, we have Road Warrior Animal joining us here. And Animal, just want to say thanks for you coming on the show tonight. We really appreciate you taking your time to come in and talk with us tonight.
Yeah, man, no problem, guys. Hey, I remember that time period of the AWA as well. I was in high school in the late 70s, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
And of course, I'm sure you probably had a run-in with that powerhouse Playboy Buddy Rose, or I'm sorry, the lightweight as I referred to him earlier.
I know Buddy very well. Buddy was probably one of the one of the most underrated talents in our business. You know, I mean, he should have done a lot better than he did. I think he got screwed, blued, and tattooed by a couple of promoters. You know.
I always found him very entertaining, guys, when he would always come out there to announce his weight, because and everybody knew it was more than what he would announce, but that was the whole comedic part of it and everything. What was
the AWA, man? But the AWA was hot in the late 70s, or right around the late 70s. 78, 79, 80. Then right at 80, it started dying. From 80 to 84, it really didn't do anything.
No, there's a lot of talent that got taken.
I'll be honest with you. When it started popping again, when Hawk and I came up here from Georgia Championship Wrestling and went into the AWA, and then next thing you know, St. Paul Civic Center started selling out everywhere, and everywhere we went, in the AWA started selling out every arena.
Oh, and I'm sure it was no coincidence either. You guys made a big impact on stuff for sure. KJ, Killjoy?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Adam a question. Do you remember the little mini riot that you and Hawk caused at that arena? Because I remember something happened. I don't know which team you were going against, but the fans
it was
did not like you.
And Henningen. Henningen in Hammond, Indiana. Yep.
It looked like you were fearing for your lives. I'm sure you had to shoot right then and there because it did not look like they were all about.
Well, I tell you what, there wasn't any fear on Hawk and I's part. And once that chair flew in the air and hit Hawk in the head, if you look at that video, we started knocking down about 3-4 people immediately.
Yes.
So I mean, I mean, we would have stayed right in there and did the whole arena. We had to. I mean, it wouldn't have made any difference at that time, But it was. Listen, that's the way you do your job correctly as a heel, and Hawk and I did it correctly, and Henning sold it, and Von Rash sold it, and and the fans got incensed. But that's the difference in a fan in yesteryear and the difference in a fan today. The fan today doesn't have the time allotment to get invested in their babyface or their heel. They gotta love it. They gotta love a guy in a 2-week period, and then at the end of that 2 weeks comes a pay-per-view, and then it's a blow-off, and they never see the guy again.
True, very true.
You see that with Dolph Lundgren. You see that with Roman Reigns. You see that with other guys. They don't have time. If you look back at the history of the business, what gave it longevity, it was Nick Bockwinkel or Bruno Sammartino being a champion for 15 straight years, or Nick Bockwinkel not being touched for 5 years until Hulk Hogan comes, and then next thing you know, here's the big monster that takes it. I mean, that's what gives it longevity. People can follow a storyline and really sink their teeth into something,
Do you think Vern Gagne kind of regretted not putting the belt on Hulk Hogan during that time? I remember reading that he kind of said he thought that the belt should be on somebody who was more technically sound, and that was the style he believed in.
Well, Vern on one hand was a great payoff guy. He paid you really well, but then Vern, on the other hand, kind of fought changing with the times a little bit. That was one of the reasons why we kind of parted ways. No ill feelings, but Vern was a great guy. But yeah, I can see that. That's a good point.
The co-host here, Mike, has made the comment plenty of times that if Vern Gagne had possibly kept a lot of the talent that he had over there throughout the years, that we may be watching AWA today instead of WWE.
Well, probably so. And I think what's going to end up happening in the wrestling business, because it's going to have to, and you see it popping up all over the places, there are going to be some other companies that open up, and they may not be the WWE, but I don't think the WWE is going to be top dog for much longer and be the only company. I think there's going to be other companies that come up and start jumping in there. You're going to have 3 to 5 major companies Because there's more wrestlers getting involved today, and you have with YouTube and everything else, you have more avenues for the guys to go to. But you just can't have one company trying to have people believe that Raw and SmackDown are two different shows when it's the same people on both shows.
Right. And you mentioned earlier, there's no build-up anymore. No, there's no.
Stupid.
No, and there's no build-up. There's no excitement to it. It's like a pay-per-view every Monday night almost. You see the same matches anyway. Let's put it that way.
Listen. Who wants to watch a 3-hour show of talking? I don't.
That's the same thing we've said 1,000 times over.
You have 2.5 hours of talking, and you got a half an hour of wrestling. And that may just be 2 matches.
It's not wrestling the way we remembered and grew up watching wrestling either. That's another thing that the product, especially at the WWE level, is, I don't know if it's diluted would be the word that you want to use, but it seems like everybody has a limited move set, and chain wrestling is pretty much dead.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, guys. If you look at it, there's a new terminology in wrestling. It's called your shine. The guys are so worried about getting their shine in and getting in their move, they've lost all reality and all respect for the art of the match. For instance, you watched Seth Rollins' match the other day. I forget who he was in the ring with. Was it Roman Reigns and somebody else? He was getting his dog shit kicked out.
They had a fatal 5-way, I believe it was.
Well, no, but it was a match on TV on Raw, and there were 3 guys. And I don't know if you know the match where he ended up on the top turnbuckle or getting beat up on the turnbuckle, and the guys were standing on the rope giving him punches, and he double power bombed both guys.
I saw
that.
Yeah.
Not believable.
It was
not believable. I would not
even
even try that. I had the strength to carry guys. I would have not even tried that move. And the problem with that, and why the ratings are so low now today, is because those freaking idiots don't seem to think to sell what is going on anymore. Simple moves that guys used to get carried off on now, guys are getting out. And he Seth didn't sell anything the whole match. That's why people farted at the whole show. Nobody sells anything anymore.
Yeah.
If I could chime in for a minute on this subject, because this is something that I've been saying for a while. Everybody was really high on the I think it was Will Ospreay and Ricochet match. It was, just you were talking about no sells, and that's what made me think about this. It's because it was chain wrestling. That's all it was. Constant motion, constant high risk maneuvers, and nobody was selling anything. And this goes on for the whole match. And people are talking about it's like the greatest thing ever, and I can't see why.
Because it's a whole bunch of high spots.
I don't see it.
There's a whole bunch of high spots. Everybody wants to see a high spot. Everybody. That's what everybody wants to do because everybody wants to see almost like stuntmen. Somebody like Rob Van Dam was very unique. Now he's not because everybody's jumping from the top rope and doing triple Lundy flips onto their opponent, and then they're no selling. Mm-hmm. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why your top guys are injured half the time.
So
bro, listen. This is why, and I'm being very modest here. This is why guys in your position want to talk to guys like me, because after 30 years, I'm still at the top of the game as far as ratings and everything else, and I ain't been in the ring since 2006. On a full-time basis, because I did my job correctly, and the fans respect it. And anything they go watch of mine is a total respect. There's hardly any disrespect or no ruining the business.
Absolutely, and you're never going to have to worry about being an afterthought because you won't.
No, I'm one of the originals.
Because people like me are going to tell our kids, which I do. I let my kids watch the network because I want them to see what I grew up with, and wrestling means something to me. So I want them to see why it means what it means to me. I don't want them watching, all this crap that's going on right now, because to me that's not wrestling.
Well, let me jump in. Animal, here's the thing, and my 8-year-old self thanks you for coming on the show. The kids will never understand the first time they saw wrestlers come in and just dominate, kick the crap. Like when I heard Iron Man I knew at 8 years old. I knew somebody was getting messed up. Like I knew, and you slid into the ring and you kicked the crap out of people. And yes, you were kind of stiff. I'm not gonna lie, but even when you kind of broke away and did more, less, like a feather, as Brody would say, we knew who was coming into the ring. We knew that you guys were badasses. I don't think that there's some badasses walking into the ring in the WWE or anywhere where everybody's going, oh no, you guys did that. And that's what I'm sad that people don't see that or will never get to witness that, because there was others like you, like Brody and Stan Hansen, when they came into the ring, you're like, oh no, you don't have that anymore. And I think that's sad, and I think that's what is missing today.
Well, the business back then, man, they needed, at our time, in the beginning we were stiff guys, but we still, in the beginning, the first couple of years, never hurt anybody as much as, like, Seth Rollins hurt somebody in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's hurt guys very badly. We never broke anybody's bones, anything else, did anything like that. And our boss told everybody, hey, these guys are going to do this. The business needs this right now, and they're the only ones doing it. That's why we're going to do it. And I think our persona and where we grew up and the way we came into it also helped, because it was kind of natural for us, So it was a win-win-win all the way for us. He took us right out of our element and put us in another element where we could be us. So it was perfect. But once we learned to do that, you get feather-like in your work, but you still make it look like, holy crap, you took his head off, and then you don't even touch him. That's how we started perfecting our craft. And then once we started going over to Japan and stuff and working on the Japanese boys, it got easier and easier and easier, because we got right into our game of what we wanted to do. And if you look now, Hawk and I did not stay in our company from the beginning to end like guys like Cena and Daniel Bryan and everybody else. We went, 3-6 months in the AWA, go to Japan for 4 or 5 months or a year, and then go to the NWA, then go to Montreal, then go to San Antonio, and go to Don Owens in Portland, or go work Puerto Rico for Carlos Colon, or we would go work Australia for somebody, or, we'd go to work for Otto Vance in Germany, or go to somewhere else. We went all over the world, and we were the only guys doing that. That's why when you hear the term the Warrior Pop, that's why it's different than anybody else's entrance, because we had a literal eruption when we came to the ring, because people knew that when they heard that music, like you said, the Iron Man or the what a rush, that, oh crap, someone's getting the dog kicked out of them,
Hey guys, we had we have a Joe Lott on the phone with us here. He's got a question for you, Animal, he'd like to ask. Joe, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm right here.
All right, great.
Yeah,
Joe,
go ahead, Joe.
Animal, first off, thank you so much for everything you've done and entertaining millions of people. But let me ask you this. After so long, the Road Warriors, once you guys became faces and then did the heel turn with Dusty, at that point, I was a kid. I found myself confused. I didn't know how to feel, because I was such a big fan of all three of you. But at that point, the Road Warriors became heels, but could still do no wrong. Why do you think that is?
Because I think that time in society, if you remember, Hawk and I did nothing to turn babyface. All that we did is wrestle Ivan Nikita Koloff. Now, you got to remember, that was right after, President Reagan got on Gorbachev's rear end with Russia and said, hey, help me tear down those walls. And the Russians were the big bad guys at the end of the Cold War. And then here we are from the U.S., the red, white, and blue team going to fight 2 Soviet guys. So it turned us babyface. We never changed our personality and our actions. We still said all the time, hey, we don't care who you are. We're not going to dress in your locker room. You're not going to dress in that locker room. We're dressing in our own locker room, man. And I think, our motto all along was, we're the guys that say what we're going to do, then we do it. And I think that took us a long way. And we told every promoter that we worked for, listen, I'm not going to tell these people I'm going to win. I'm not going to tell these people anything if it doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen, we're leaving. And we told people that. And I think we just started getting credibility over the years that people knew that when we come into town, even when we turned on Dusty, there's a lot of people that love Dusty, but there are also a lot of people that were sick of Dusty at that time.
Mm.
I mean, I think Dusty's one of the greatest guys ever to be in the wrestling business myself. But in the business at time, they tried it. But if you remember back then, we got a lot of cheers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Sting and Luger tried to come run down and save Dusty, and we beat the crap out of them, and they still cheered. Every time we went against the establishment, we cheered. If you think about it, that was really the time of the Attitude Era, or when it started. Not back in, the year 2000 something. It started way back then. People started cheering us for kicking people's rear ends. That's the Attitude Era.
I'd have to agree with that for sure. And Joe, I'm like you. I probably had similar thoughts about that as well when it happened. I would be like, how do I cheer for these guys now? And then the next Saturday you come on TBS, I'm like, oh yeah, it's the Road Warriors again. Here we go. And it was all great all over again. It didn't matter to get that point because you just came in and you killed somebody basically in the ring. I mean, when the guys got put up on your shoulder and got clotheslined and turned a big 360 flip, you jump up out of your bed and say, that is awesome. It didn't matter who it was at that time, I don't think. That was just great. So,
yeah, well,
but Joe, that's great.
That's where we learned that move over in Japan. So we tried it on the Japanese boys first and said, hell, if the Japanese boys live through it, the American boys can handle it. So.
Ain't that the truth?
Now, did anybody ever, during that time frame when you were using that for the most part, did anybody ever get injured from that move or anything that you can remember?
No, nobody ever really got injured from it. One person got injured later on, and it was when we got to wrestle the Godwins. Henry Godwin got hurt doing it, and that's, it was a little battle there with Vince McMahon wanting us to do the finish, and I said, hey, he's too tall, and, started throwing the jabs at me. Oh, can't you get him up on your shoulders? I said, okay, we'll see. And I got him up fine, which is no problem, because I was so strong back then at that time. And, Henry kind of skimmed his neck and had a hairline fracture in his neck. It didn't ruin his career or nothing like that, but still, it was too close for comfort for big guys like that. So I just made it a point. I'm not doing a big guy anymore,
Yeah, some of these landings sometimes look harsh.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's a simple landing. It's a belly flop. You land on your belly. It's a little scary when you're on somebody's shoulders going backwards, but if you get any control of your body at all, see, for me, I think it's easy because I used to compete in diving. So if you flip me around, I'm going to look where I'm going to land. It's when you close your eyes and you don't see where you're landing where you get scared,
But to me, it looked like you always had control of it anyway.
Was definitely afraid of it.
Off your shoulders, it looked like you had your hands on their legs, and you would just go ahead and shove them on off too at the same time. You get that little momentum with it.
I was making sure they were going to spin. Yeah, Sting was definitely afraid to take that move.
I guess I could understand it. I probably would be myself at that, but if knowing that I'm going to definitely make my way around before I land would be a little more of a comfort too, though. That's what I'm saying. It looked like you had control of most everybody that was up there, because whenever they would fly off your shoulders, you would definitely look like you were shoving their legs, clear over your head at that point.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to understand, having the guy on my shoulder was very secure for me. I mean, at the time, I was probably squatting about 850 pounds, so I could just get underneath the guy and get him up easily. That was no problem. And I was strong enough with the arms to throw them around because, I had pretty strong triceps back in the day there. And
I got to, while I'm thinking about this here, I got a Mark James of Memphis. I'm not sure if you have heard of Mark or not. He's written some books for some wrestlers, mostly Memphis guys, and some during the Mid-South days and everything. But he had a question he was wanting me to ask. He said he couldn't make the show tonight to ask himself, but he was curious, in your opinion, what about how Bruiser Brody and Jerry Blackwell took it when the Road Warriors were in the AWA and you had fought them, because he said most people at the time were kind of taking it easy on them because they were older, and you guys were definitely not an easygoing kind of team, more rough and hard at it and everything. Did they ever have any kind of a difference of opinion about something like that, or were they kind of cool with how things went?
Who's that, Jerry Blackwell and who?
Blackwell and Brody.
Well, Brody wasn't in there at that time. Brody, we did wrestled Brody later at one other time, I think. But Jerry Blackwell was older, and Jerry was great, man. Jerry was a heck of a talent. He could really move, and for a 450-pound guy, he was good. I was thinking, like Crusher and Bruiser now, they had never went off their feet for 50 years, and then Hawk and I got them, and the first thing we did was press slam each one of them. And that got a lot of attention in the AWA, because they were like kings of the AWA, and if you can imagine now, we're wrestling those guys. We're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's a sold-out auditorium at the time, and they come down to the Beer Bill Polka, and Hawk and I are standing in the ring saying, "What in the hell is that music?" And we just came down the Iron Man, and the crowd is going nuts when they come in. Crusher's got the chair around his neck. Bruiser just comes down there in the old school, tights on and stuff. And first move we did was a kick to the gut and press slam him over the head.
Yeah, I didn't think I remember the Brody part of it, but he was pretty adamant about it when I asked him earlier. I remember Jerry Blackwell for sure. He was very big during that time in AWA and everything. And whether he was with what was it, Sheikad Donnell Casey? Is that who it was, or whether he fought against him?
Yeah, he was with Adnan, and I think at one time who else did we wrestle? We wrestled. Well, Crusher was with. Crusher managed the Fabs at one time. Started getting involved that way when he got older. But a lot of respect for those guys. I mean, it was hard for them to do that.
Yeah. Hey, Joe Lott, you said you have one more question for us? Let me get you back on the line here. Looks like you're in the holding area there. Joe, you said one more question for us?
Yeah, just one more question. You guys were talking about the Doomsday device earlier, and I was watching some old episodes of Sunday Night Heat, and I came across the episode where Animal, you and Draws got into it with Hawk, and I think it's the first time I'd ever seen you guys throw down on each other. What did it feel like for you when you put Hawk up on your shoulders to take that clothesline from Draws?
Well, it was one of the angles doing the wrestling business that Hawk and I never liked it, and that's why Hawk and I never wrestled against each other. We weren't going to be like other teams. They may do that, like they made the Steiner do that, and that was stupid. Nobody believes that two brothers are actually going to fight like that. Our philosophy was doing it more of as a wake-up call to Hawk, because Hawk was getting so far gone at that time. We were trying to get his attention no matter what way we could. So, and we tried to make it look like it was more Droz egging on to do than anything else,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we only did it the one time. That was it. One time.
I'm glad it was only once. I'm glad it was only
Yeah, me too. I hated a lot of those angles. I hated Rocco. I hated the thing, I didn't like the thing that I did with Heidenreich either, and there's a couple of things I did that I didn't like, but, trying to be a businessman,
I'm glad you brought up the Rocco bit, because that was just the most awful thing ever.
Yeah, what did that?
That was the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life.
About?
They were trying to say that we were selling so much stuff marketing-wise. They were trying to make us human in the eyes of kids to really gamble more on the marketing that we already have. I said, but we're selling out of all our shoulder pads and everything else. What is the deal? Why do we got to worry about some stupid ventriloquist dummy? We used that thing for one, but at SummerSlam over in Wembley Stadium, and after that Rocco disappeared. And we made sure it disappeared.
Ellering just didn't strike me as the kind of person that would want to play a ventriloquist when it comes to the ring.
Well, neither did I want to play a grown man that said, "Oh, Rocco, I missed you, I love you," type guy either. Come on. That was the dumbest thing they wanted us to do. You're having us worrying about frickin' Rocco at the time when bra and panties matches were just starting on TV. It was stupid.
For the life of me, I never understood that. I was young at the time. Even I was like,
it should go down in wrestling as one of the dumbest angles or ideas ever.
Ever.
Yeah.
The gobbledygooker still has that locked up.
Listen, that was the one thing that went on a lot outside of the AWA and NWA, when we got into the other company, was, there was a lot of, I don't want to say testing, but let's see how far we can push these guys or damage the gimmick or quiet it down. And there was really nothing that anybody could do that would make us any less popular than we already were. Even the little, we'll use the LOD name instead of the Road Warriors. That didn't hurt us. People still knew who we are. So.
Was that a licensing thing? The LOD Road Warrior thing?
We got the word that at the time they didn't want to have too many warriors in company. They had the Ultimate Warrior.
Right.
They didn't want to have the Road Warriors too. As far as marketing guys, you guys are in the same demographic. And then they asked, "Hey, you got any other Doom and then any other name?" And I said, "Well, how about the Legion of Doom?" And they love the name. Little do they know we own the name. Because we copyrighted and owned that a long time ago. And we always were. Precious Paul Ellering presents from the Legion of Doom, Animal and Hawk, the Road Warriors.
True. Wasn't at one time the Legion of Doom was like 8 guys though before you guys just took it, which I thought was pretty interesting. But.
Yeah, but not for long though, man. At one time
not for long.
It had Hawk, Paul, and I, and then it had the Spoiler, and I think Jake Roberts, and then I think Bundy was going to try to get in it, and then Spoiler retired. Jake went to New York, and Bundy, we didn't even give him a chance to get in it. So.
Whenever you guys were in AWA a bit, they had the part where they kind of partnered with some of the other companies as well. I believe they were kind of in with NWA a little bit. They were in with Jerry Jarrett's Memphis promotion, a couple of others and everything. While you were there and you were fighting teams from every company, what was the the toughest team that you guys went up against that was most challenged for you during that time?
I tell you who was tough at that time back then was friggin' Duggan and Magnum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did it early when they against them for Bill Watts down there in Shreveport. But other than that, Hawk and I pretty much. We were lucky, man. We would go into Memphis and we would wrestle with Jerry Lawler and Austin Idol, which was a break because Jerry Lawler was so over then, And then we would go all over the place. And I was lucky and fortunate enough to work with everybody's main event talent, so it helped Hawk and I learn.
I kind of grew up watching the Memphis wrestling myself. I grew up in Tennessee, so I got to see you guys with the AWA when it came on ESPN when the nights they came on, and a little bit with the Memphis thing as well. I think you guys, of course, you had the feud with the Fabs when they were in the AWA. I don't think they were in Memphis at the time. And I might be wrong on this. Did you guys ever have a little bit of a stint with Lawler and Idol?
Oh yeah, man. We wrestled Lawler and Idol like 5 different times down there and sold out the Memphis Coliseum. We were the first ones in Memphis. I don't know if you remember this. We had the black light strobe lights and music play. That was Jimmy Hart's idea of anybody in the country, and it looked freaking awesome. Hawk and I looked like 2 big gargoyles with those spikes on, flipping around in the ring, and the strobes were going off, and it looked. I wish every arena would have used that entrance, But Jimmy Hart was so far ahead of his time. He and Jerry Lawler, man, they were great at doing that.
Seems like a lot of people came through there, and they kind of, I don't want to say innovated a lot of stuff. Mike, we were talking this before. As far as teams like the Rock and Roll Express and the Fabulous Ones, I think the Fabs kind of came out first with a little pretty boy gimmick, and then they turned around and spun off the Rock and Roll Express, and they spun off the Fantastics. I'm sorry, by the way, I don't want to get off topic. Speaking of which, Bobby Fulton's son Dylan says to tell you hello. He just sent me a message a few minutes ago.
Oh yeah, Bobby's great, man. Dylan's a good guy too, man. But good kid.
Yeah, he definitely says to tell you hi. They kind of spun off some things through there. Do you think that the Memphis promotion? I always ask this to people when they come on. Did they have a real chance of going forward if it wouldn't have been for what they say about Vince buying the small territories out and everything? Do you think they would have stood a bigger chance of going forward had they kind of kept a little more of their talent there? Because quite a few people came through that area at that one time.
Well, the wrestling business always goes in peaks and valleys. So it was going to go great, and it was going to die sooner or later. When we first got into it, it was dead as hell. Then it started to come back up. I mean, I shouldn't say everything was dead as hell, but some of the areas like the NWA and AWA were dead. Then they started coming all back up again. But I don't know if it would have made a difference or not. Like I said, I think the people we're in such a now, give me my excitement now, give me everything now society. That's why the wrestling business got to where it is now. It needs to go back to basics and slow down a little bit, and start going back in this little area again.
I agree with that. Mike, anything you want to put in here? You've been awfully quiet in the corner back there. We're worried about you.
Hey, I've just been, watching the call boards, Chris. That's my main job. Watch the calls, look pretty, try to be smarter than you. That usually doesn't work because I can't have the looks and the brains.
Well,
I totally agree with Animal because, like I said, I went down to the independent world-class wrestling there that Dirty Rhodes put on last night, and it was that hearkening back to that simpler time. It was just basic wrestling maneuvers, but it just captivated you. You saw the guys, and it was physical. It was just something that's so much more physical than what you see mainstreamed on. What was it Bobby Fulton called it, Chris? That small company from the Northeast.
Yeah, that small company up north.
Yeah, man, those guys where Bobby who wrestles down there, that company he's got going, man, those boys work hard. I will say I love going to the Ohio Valley there and doing shows and all that stuff because it's a good place, man. The people need to understand, man. There's a lot of great young wrestlers in this country that just don't get the break, and if you don't go through, unfortunately, if you want to wrestle in WWE, you got to go through NXT and go through their camp, or you're not going to make it. At least people think, but there's a lot of other great camps out there. I know Bobby's got a great camp. Ricky Morton's got a great camp. Rikishi's got a great camp. I mean, there's a lot of the better places to go to learn how to work.
Speaking of young talent, speaking of young talent, Animal. Speaking of young talent, who do you see out there that would probably be closest right now to the way things were?
Well, I think of Bray Wyatt.
Definitely.
Bray Wyatt's probably one of the best talent they got there. Dolph Ziggler, another one.
Mm-hmm.
Another great piece of talent. I think that I think Roman Reigns could be something if he would just be Samoan and not try to be a SWAT team guy. I'm a big believer in staying within your heritage and, man, use the tools God gave you. Let me see. Even Seth Rollins is a heck of a piece of talent. I just think he's being pushed a bad way.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I tell you, I do like American Alpha. Like that new tag team today, they're good. I think they're really good.
I think they're a throwback.
Yeah, I mean they're a throwback a little bit, and so. But other than that, man, I think it's pretty limited.
Yeah.
Yeah, the American Alpha are a good tag team. They're pretty fun to watch as well. I was just thinking about something, Animal. I was wondering if you'd do me a favor here. I've got a friend of the show, likes to listen to things when we get the guys on and listen to the interviews and all. His name is Kevin Brandon, and he's actually he's been down and out a few times. He's beat cancer 3 times. He's going to another battle with something right now. I was just wondering if you might just send a quick shout out to him on the air and just say hello to him. I'm sure it would make his day and everything. He likes listening. He's a big fan of the territorial days, especially in WA and the Road
Where's
Warriors.
Kevin live at, man?
I believe. Let's see. Hold on a second here, because Joe, where does Kevin live at?
Kevin's right here in Clarksburg, West Virginia. And he's actually my brother-in-law. He is a huge fan. He's beaten melanoma. He's beaten lung cancer. and he just recently lost his bladder. And when they did the surgery on his bladder, he had some nerve damage done in his legs. He really can't get around right now without a walker and somebody walking beside, and it would mean everything to him if he just cut a promo on him.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah.
Cut a promo on him. Didn't want to hurt him or anything now.
Is he going to be listening to this show here?
I'll make sure he hears it.
All right. Well, here you go, man. Hey, Kevin, this WWE Hall of Famer from the Legion of Doom, Road Warrior Animal, Kevin. Now, I hear you've been through some bad luck. One thing you always got to remember, your luck could have been worse. You could have had to be in the ring with Hawk and I. But from what I hear, man, is you're a survivor, and you're strong, bro, and you make it through these things, which at this time, I'm going to make you an honorary member of the Legion of Doom and make you a warrior. Because in true life, it's people like you that are true warriors, bro. And I'm going to give you something I hardly give anybody else in this world. Ready? Oh, what a rush. There you go, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you. That was great. We certainly appreciate it. Kevin's a great guy.
Yeah, no problem, guys.
I was wondering, Ellering's new tag team he's got, I believe they're called the Authors of Pain. That's great. Have you seen them, and what do you think about them?
Young boys, stupid tag team name. I think you had the Powers of Pain, you got your American Authors, a dumb tag team name. You mean to tell me with all the brain surgeons and all the writers they got, they couldn't come up with a better name than that? But listen, if they're going to make it as a tag team, they're going to make it with Ellering. I mean, I've not seen them. I don't know if they have what it takes. They're great, humble guys, which I understand. Paul Ellering tells me they're great guys, and I would really like them, which I'll take Paul's word for it. So, hey, man, Paul's a businessman. If WWE wants him to help try to build up a tag team, God bless them, man. I hope it works out. Yeah, I know Paul's daughter Rachel's. Paul's daughter Rachel's doing very well in NXT. So. Oh yes.
Animal, I've got a quick question for you. You and Hawk as the Road Warriors are not probably, in my mind, are the most imitated tag team of all time. Which of those imitations did you find the worst, and which ones did you find maybe not so bad?
Well, here's what I looked at it, man. Imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So none of them really bothered me because I'm a very secure person in my own skin. So I know what I've accomplished, and I know the original. People always remember the originals. They don't remember the imitators. Because it always refers back to their very first one. And Hawk and I set a precedent that was pretty hard to follow, and to this day, it hasn't been followed. I mean, I used to get a bunch of crap about Powers of Pain, who are two good friends of mine, Barbarian Warlord, or I used to get a bunch of crap about Demolition. And, it is what it is, I mean, Demolition was formed because we went up to WWE, Vince talked to us and wanted us to come up there, and we said, no, we're going to stay with the NWA, and next thing you know, they had Demolition. So, I mean, good. Listen, it's good. People really shouldn't compare them because if you really think about it, look at all the gimmicks and all the comparisons. Hawk and I were two street fighters that got into wrestling. Everybody else is a wrestler trying to portray a street fighter. You know what I mean? Why do you think our gimmick has stayed heads and tails above all the imitators? Because we did not have to act anything. It was natural for us. You know what I'm saying? It was second nature. So once it became, we just had to learn how to wrestle, and once we learned that, shit, man, it was good. We already knew how to talk,
Yeah.
I actually took a poll earlier on a group here online that what team they thought might have been close to you guys if given a push, and a lot of people put out there they thought the Blade Runners, which of course early on Sting and Ultimate Warrior. If they had never split apart, of course, we wouldn't have had Sting and Ultimate Warrior. Who knows how it would have turned out? But I remember seeing them when they were young and first come out.
Here's what you got to look at, though. Neither one of them could do an interview for shit.
Right. They were pretty rough when they first came out. They were pretty rough.
Bro, Sting to this day still can't do an interview. I hate to say it. I mean, God rest Warrior's soul. Warrior got better in time when he slowed down and did those freaking off the wall, you know, I don't know what induced interviews he was doing. You know what I mean? But yeah, but you know, but those two still were two bodybuilders trying to be tough guys. They were not street fighters. They were not guys that play. Listen, I'm an inner city guy myself. So is Hawk. You know, I didn't have the greatest and best of things going up in my life. I never talk about them, but I learned how to do doggy dog. Those guys were trying to do doggy dog that never lived it. I lived it. So Hawk lived it. So a little bit different. That's why we just ended up where we did.
Yeah, you mentioned the cut a promo and talking and everything. We had a guy on the show. He's a wrestler on the independent circuit. He calls himself the Nighthawk, and he talks every now and then. We kind of send messages back and forth, and he sent me one earlier and said he remembers you guys cutting a promo on TBS one day where you were talking about any contenders, and you said, well, somebody, how much can you bench? And then Hawk kind of disappeared from the screen, and next thing you know, you see him laying on the floor. And he says, who cares how much they can bench after they're laying on the floor doing the herky-jerky when we get done with them? You know, things like that seem to just come natural with you guys.
That's true. That's true. Shit, I've been on an interview with Hawk, and he'll do right on the interview. He'll say, "What could anybody do to us?" And he starts punching himself in the face. He goes, "I can hit myself harder than anybody else can hit me." You know, and it was literal. I mean, I've seen him do that when we were bouncing in bars together before we even thought about wrestling, you know. And you got to understand, some of the guys that we so-called were imitators, like, we worked together. I mean, Barry Darso, Smash and Demolition, you know, I'd known since I was 17 years old in high school. I mean, Kurt Hennig and Hawk, Kurt Hennig punched Hawk in the face in high school. You know, Kurt won the Robbinsdale. Rick Rude, another guy. We all bounced at the same bar.
Yeah. I heard Rick was a tough guy. Rick Rude.
Rick was tough for his weight, man. Rick was the littlest guy. He was about 220. He was the smallest guy.
Yeah, I heard one time that he hit somebody, and it's like the person's face exploded. Like, I heard some stories about him.
Yeah, you know, Scott Norton was the strongest, though. He was the strongest of all of us. He and Hawk went to the same high school. But, you know, Scott Norton was the biggest and the strongest.
That's like a who's who. Your high school must have been awesome.
Yeah, well, we all lived around within about a 5-mile radius of each other. Like Hawk and Norton went to Henry, and everybody else went to Robbinsdale. Then I was an Irondale guy. I was the oddball. I met all those guys at a Minnesota Kicks used to be a soccer team. I met them in a kick soccer game, and we just were like grilling barbecue steaks with our hands in high school together. We all became buddies. Man, we all worked out at the same gym, and then we got in this. We were working at the same bar, and then Ed Sharkey was the bartender that trained Jesse Ventura, and Ed says, "I'm gonna do a wrestling camp. You guys want to do it?" We all said, "I guess so. Let's try it."
Dude,
I did see that earlier. At the same time.
And listen,
it looked like
about 5 years after us came Warlord from the same gym.
That's so awesome.
There's something in the water
up there, I'm telling you. Listen to this. After that, he didn't grow up with us, but after that, who was training in our area, Brock was training at my gym. You know, so at a place called the Gym. He was lifting weights there. And so was Batista back in the day. So, yeah.
Hey, you got to see them all rise up. That's crazy.
I don't know.
It's kind of a who's who there. I have a quick question for you. Then I want to get Jeff Teeters back in here for a question real quick, if you will. But I was wondering, most people that got taken to, or not taken, but that went to WWE or WWF at the time, whichever it was, you know, Vince was known for slapping some crazy gimmick on them. You know, Terry Taylor was established, but he had to throw that little red mohawk on to be the Red Rooster, or he put polka dots on Dusty. How and was it just because you guys were already as big as you were that he didn't even try to change you around or anything, or was it kind of like a stipulation of coming there that this is what we are, we're not changing?
Well, no. I mean, he first of all, I think he knew damn well better that it wasn't going to happen, and I don't really think he knew what to think of us personally. And then and we were kind of no nonsense when it came to doing business. We'll do business. We'll do anything in the world you want. Just don't disrespect us.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Teeter, so you got a question for us?
I do. I was just kind of wondering, in your mind, out of all the tag teams that you guys have been pit against and that you've beaten, who, in your mind, is the best tag team that you guys ever wrestled against? Like, who did you enjoy being in the ring with more than anybody else?
Oh man, I don't. That's such a hard question, bro. I mean, you got to think. Not only the Hawk and I were the only ones to win the big three, right? We won. Hawk and I are like the only ones to win like some 18 to 20 different tag team titles, which nobody has ever come close to, and it'll never happen again, ever. I got to get in the ring with guys like not only Crusher and Bruiser, but Terry and Dory Funk. You know what I mean? I mean, that was nostalgic. I mean, Ricky Choshu and Masa Saito, Giant Baba and Jumbo Tsuruta. I mean, talk about legends there. I mean, Austin Idol, Jerry Lawler. Jerry and Jack Briscoe, Ole Anderson. You know what I mean? I mean, you're talking, the list goes on and on of great tag teams. Another great tag team guy, Harley Race, and then Dusty, and Larry Henning, another great tag team, Lagana and Brunzel, I mean, there's a lot of great guys. The Rougeaus in Montreal, It's really hard. I think the one we had the most success with in working and drawing a lot of money with was the Four Horsemen.
Oh, absolutely.
Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson. We had great chemistry with the Midnight Express. We actually had great matches with the Long Riders when they were around in the AWA.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of
I did
the
forget about them.
tag teams. Yeah, Scott and Bill Irwin were great. So.
It's funny that you mentioned. It's funny that you mentioned Bill Irwin, and I thought going back to the whole revisionist history thing and slapping a stupid gimmick on people. Like, what about that freaking Toon gimmick they gave him, the hockey player? I mean, I don't understand.
Like the guy from the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, bro, he was like that Casey guy from the Kid Ninja Turtles. That's what they gave it. That's where he got it.
It's ridiculous. He was already established as Bill Irwin, and I mean, he was great.
He was good.
Well, they definitely had some crazy things. Crazy things. And if I hear one more person, go ahead.
Yeah, Bill was a cowboy at heart. All right, he married a Minnesota girl. He lives in Minnesota. I mean, Bill was perfect for that gimmick.
Yeah, and I tell you, I think if I hear one more person say the Dudleys are the greatest tag team ever, I'm going to have to get it back up on my soapbox again and break everything down for them, because I've had so many arguments over the years.
Listen, you ask those stupid people, say, prove it. How? Because you won the same title over and over and over and over? Go, listen, hold on a second. All right, listen. Go sell out the Tokyo Dome and wrestle those champions and win the All Japan belts. Go sell out the Osaka Dome and win those belts, the NWA. Listen, when you can go in there and you just say you won the Georgia Championship, the AWA, the NWA, the WWF, the WWE, the New Japan, All Japan, World Japan, Battle Arts, Mexico champion, Australian champion, Portland champion. Let me see, how many is that? 12? Let's try to keep going or not. I mean,
I believe
that's where you end the argument right there. That's how you end the argument. Just start throwing out any call letters, because the only ones they won were TNA and WWE. That's it.
Well, I think if you were around I think if you were around ECW, you would have won those easily too. You understand what I mean? Like,
well,
you're
we
absolutely
would've.
correct.
We had the chance to go to ECW, and here's my choice: do I go to ECW or go to Japan? go to ECW and scrape by, or go to Japan and make thousands. I hate to say that, but that was a choice back then.
Yeah.
That was what I was going to say. Do you want to get paid or not?
Exactly. And I'm not being cocky, but people throw that up to me every now and then. I say, listen, man, are the Dudleys great? Yes. Have they been respectful to Hawk and I? Absolutely. When Hawk passed away, man, they wore Hawk armbands. They're great boys. I like them both a lot, But in reality, there ain't no way they had not ever come close to us in selling merchandise, selling out arenas, or doing anything around this world.
Amen.
I'll tell you what.
Hawk and I set attendance records for the WWE first tour in Barcelona, Kuwait, all those countries. Attendance records all across Europe when they broke down the Berlin Wall in Berlin and everywhere, man. In Munich, everywhere. It's just, I don't even want to hear it.
Yeah, I want to get one more question for Joe in here, Joe Lott, before we get you off here tonight. And I don't want to keep you on all night long. I'm sure you're probably getting tired at this point, and we've had you on for quite a while longer than what most people usually stay, and I really appreciate it. But I want to let Joe get one more question in here tonight before he goes. Joe, go ahead.
Hey, and just one more thing. I know with your gimmick, Ole Anderson was credited as giving you the Road Warrior gimmick. If it hadn't been for him giving you that, how would you and Hawk promoted yourselves? What gimmick would you have given yourselves?
Honestly, bro, we probably would have just called ourselves like the Barbarians or something and just been somebody who just mauled people. Seriously, I mean, Ole tried to bring me in as a Road Warrior by myself at first. So there was some corporate stuff going on, so he sent me to Jim Crockett Promotions, and then I came home. They saw a picture of Hawk, and he said, "Where'd you get a picture of Joe?" And they said, "That's not Joe, that's Mike." And he says, "Holy shit, there's two of them?" And that's where the Road Warriors came about. So, and then when we both came on, it was like, Ole said, we're going to call you the Road Warriors right after the movie was out and everything else. So it was a good timing, a good fit. Hawk came up with his own name, and Ole looked at me and he said, "You're the animal." I'm just telling you that right now. So, that's cool, no problem. It's already kind of my nickname anyway, growing up, the way I played football and did all my other sports. So it fit. So, it was good, man. Ole was very instrumental in doing that. But I tell you, one guy who honed in the Road Warrior gimmick better than anybody and took care of it was Dusty Rhodes. When Dusty was the booker in the NWA, Dusty protected us like crazy. And I give a lot of credit to Dusty Rhodes.
Well, you want to take care of your money makers and your top product that you have, and that's one thing we can say for sure. Dusty did right.
Hey, he was a smart guy, and he put himself with us as the six-man champions, and people believed it. Here you had two big muscle heads, and then Dusty. I mean, how far off the wall is that? But it worked.
Oh, it was definitely good stuff. The NWA WCW was probably one of my most favorite things. About Saturday nights for sure when I was younger. Never missed a Saturday show when it come on. I believe it was 5:05 my time to 7:05, which was an odd thing to have 5 after the hour to start a show. It always seemed like
Guys, let me tell you guys, every town was a sellout for about 7-8 years. Every show. It was crazy.
To me, that was wrestling as it should be. It was always wrestling as it should be on those WCW and NWA. There will never be anything in the world
if you think about it, think about the wrestling back then when we were doing it full time. Hawk and I were the only ones that were doing anything. If there was any no-sell, we were the only ones in the business doing it. And so that should tell you, if you're the only ones doing it, you don't have 1,000 more people try to do it. That'll kill it. It ain't going to work for everybody. It's never happened before, and it ain't ever going to happen again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't help but think there's got to be a funny story here somewhere just with this question, but what would happen if anybody during your time coming up, if anybody ever no-selled the Legion of Doom in the ring?
Oh, they did it. I knocked the guy out in Charlotte for not doing it. Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. I had
No,
to
we got
ask because we had Dirty Rose on a couple weeks ago, and he talked about the same thing about how people had to sell, and if they didn't sell, he roughed them up. He said so. I got to thinking between yourself and Hawk, there had to be a few guys that got roughed up over the years for trying to not sell the moves.
No, man. Listen, I threw a guy in for a clothesline one time. I said, "Here comes clothesline," and he ducked on me, and I swung, and I fell to my knees.
Oh.
I grabbed him and threw him in again. I said, "Bro, clothesline, do not duck." And I swung again a little harder, and I fell to my knees again, and I hit my chin on the rope. I got right up, turned right around, hit him with a right hook. I knocked him out, and I told Hawk, I said, cover him. On TV.
I'm sorry. It's just some funny stuff sometimes when you hear somebody who just tries to no sell somebody, and of course they end up paying for it in the long run. It doesn't really pay. If you're going to be in this business and you're going to be in the ring like you guys are, and they're going to be in there with you, they need to be in a position to be able to go ahead and sell this stuff and make it look good and take the hit, take the bump. That's what they're getting paid for at the time, you know.
Nikita was all big and all beefed up back then. He was watching it. And those guys jumped up and came out of their seat about 3 feet when I knocked that guy out right on TV. They said, "Holy shit, he just knocked him out on TV." You know, but it was a point that had to be made at the time.
Well, you know, Chris and Animal, when someone's in the ring and they have it in their head that they're going to no sell against the Road Warriors, I mean, look at you guys. They've already won the Darwin Award. They're going to get whatever's coming to them, and they deserve it full force.
It was really nuts back then, guys. Well, guys, man, I got to run out of here, bro. I got other things to do out here tonight. So.
I was about to say the same thing. I was going to thank you for coming on. I don't want to take any more of your time here. I know you've been on for quite a while with us. We certainly appreciate you coming on, and hopefully sometime in the future we can get you to come on again with us later on down the line and everything.
Guys, anytime, man. Let me throw one thing out there, bro. If anybody needs to get a hold of me for any type of bookings or speaking engagements, you can go and private message me at my real name, Joseph Laurinaitis on Facebook, and I'll answer the private message and take care of things and get down to business, or go to bookforwrestlers.com. You can book me that way too.
Do you have any appearances coming up anytime soon? Are you gonna be at WrestleCade or anything?
I got appearances now through the first of the year. Then right after the first of the year, I know I go to Sudan and Kuwait and Qatar, and I got a Malaysia tour coming up at the end of February. So I keep myself pretty busy.
All right. Well, I'm glad that you were coming on the show with us, and we had a great time talking with you and learning some of these things about the AWA days with you and everything in particular, since that's the show thing today. And once again, just thank you for coming on.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot, man.
All right.
Thanks, Animal.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
What a rush.
He says, "Oh, what a rush." Yes, it is.
Dude.
Matter of fact, guys, I was going to do this at the beginning, but I thought it might be a little well overplayed for him, but...
What a rush.
Oh,
I mean,
man,
seriously, that's probably how all of us feel right about now. Teeters and Joe and Killjoy, I hope you guys have not messed your pants in any way whatsoever here.
Too late.
It's so hard not to be the fanboy when something like this is going on. I'm telling you.
Dude, I'm smoking a cigarette right now. That's how good it was.
And Joe, you're still with us, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so to make sure, yeah, I really hope that Kevin enjoys that. That was great of him to put that out there and everything.
Yeah,
and,
that was awesome. That
was
was
a little promo for us and all.
Joe, I want to throw this out to you. On December 10th, the IWCW that I just went to last night is having another show in Princeton, West Virginia. Dirty Rhodes is putting it on. It's $5 admission. He's going to have a lot of new guys there from Connecticut, he said. Bingo that day. If you meet me in Buchanan, as long as I'm off work, you can ride with me.
Oh, that'd be great. I might get another buddy of mine to come along, too. We work together, and he's a huge fan. Actually, I think you may have seen him at that show in Clarksburg. He was there.
I just wanted to throw that out to you because I'm planning on trying to get back down, as long as, my face on the local network didn't get him canceled. So.
Well, hey, I was messaging Fred here not too long ago, and I'd like to throw Mike in here too, man. Or not Mike, but Chris. So we need to get together and do this WrestleMania thing.
You know, I've been talking about it more and more. Not so much as WrestleMania as it was WrestleCon the day before. That's a lot less expensive to go to than WrestleMania, and it's still going to be that weekend there. You're not going to see any of the current people in WWF there, but you'll see a lot of the a lot of the legends. Matter of fact, I believe Animal might be there for that as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Chris, man, we'll just get some nosebleeds for WrestleMania. It'll be all good. We'll take binoculars and drones so we can actually see what's going on.
Drones.
Drones.
There is a Titantron.
My thoughts on it were all of us meet somewhere in the middle and just get a hotel room somewhere and just party it up and watch the show, man.
No, I can get behind that.
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
That's a whole lot less
that's
expensive
That's
idea.
my thoughts on it, because Fred ain't very far away from us, and Chris, I don't know how far you could come in, but I mean, if we could meet up together for the weekend, and I'm sure we all got the network.
You know what? A long time ago, I did the calculations back before there was a Killjoy or a Teeters involved. But Chattanooga, Tennessee, was like the center point for everybody. Chattanooga.
We could even go to what's that place called up there? Rock Mountain while we're there. Yeah.
It's something that we can talk about more, maybe make plans for.
Well, we should.
Not, there's always FaceTime.
That is true too.
Well, Chris, I think it's time we got a little bit of time left. We can switch over and talk to the history of the AWA a little bit. Since we do have the IQ with us here, the man who knows everything about everything wrestling. And if he doesn't know it, he only forgot it momentarily.
But I don't know about you guys, but growing up watching AWA, I picked up in the 80s, around mid-80s, because at the time when the Road Warriors were there, at the time I came into it, I guess, the Road Warriors, because I watched Memphis mostly, and that's where I found out about it, because Memphis and AWA had that tie-in with each other. So I kind of got a little bit of it then, and then a little bit more down the road, it started coming on ESPN, and I was seeing a lot of Kurt Hennig and Greg Gagne as a tag team, and then there was Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall as a tag team that won the belts for a while there, and Nick Bockwinkel was feuding with Larry Zbyszko. Rick Martel had done dropped the belt and been gone. Sergeant Slaughter didn't have the belt anymore. I don't know if he had the belt at all. He might have had the belt. But he was feuding with...
he was the America's champion.
Yeah, he was feuding with Sheik, Sheik and Blackwell and all them and everything. So a lot of great wrestlers came through there, though. I mean, people that we know that made it big in the WWE were big there before they even reached the other places. And Scott Hall changed the most of all of them.
Oh, absolutely. You mentioned Sergeant Slaughter. What a lot of people don't know is Sergeant Slaughter was with the AWA when he was doing the G.I. Joe cartoons. He wasn't with WWE at that point. That's why WWE wanted to pick him up.
Right, and as soon as he got the WWE, what happened with him? They turned him like he was a part of the Iraqi forces or something to make him a heel.
Yeah.
And with all that little bit and everything. The Rockers, the Midnight Rockers. Huh?
Speaking of the G.I. Joe thing, did you know that only 2 pro wrestlers in history have a G.I. Joe action figure? One is Sergeant Slaughter. Do you know who the other one is?
Dwayne Johnson.
Walter Payton?
Are you going to say The Rock?
The Rock.
I'm going to say Walter Payton.
Nope. Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper.
What?
Look it up.
Yep.
Let's see it. Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
what?
Look, the IQ is something on that one right there.
Did he have a camo kilt?
I don't remember, actually. I've only seen the action figure a couple of times, but I do know that he and Sergeant Slaughter both had one.
I did not know that.
I'm
That's
looking
a definite
this up. I'm not saying I don't believe you. I still have to look this up.
You're going to see what it looks like, if anything.
Remember the details.
We got to see what it looks like, if anything. I never knew that.
Dude,
he does have the kilt. He has the kilt and the jacket.
Yes, he does.
It's literally Roddy Piper.
Yes,
He's
I'm
one of
looking at it
the-
right now.
Listen, he's the Iron Grenader trainer, which makes
Yeah.
him a Cobra, right? He's a Cobra
Yeah.
guy. Now.
The Iron Grenader is the enemy. It says codename Rowdy Roddy Piper. Limited
Are you
edition of
kidding
1,000
me?
only came out.
Yep.
What the French? That's insane. How did I never knew this. How is that possible?
Great, Teeters. You broke Killjoy.
You did, man. You just killed the internet and my soul right now. Oh my
He's going to cry tonight. You, damn you, Teeters.
It's okay, Mike. You can go hold him.
He needs to
Only
be
if
cuddled now.
Only if he's taking a bath today.
Hey, who did you think was the
Make sure
best?
you have nachos.
When
Make
you
sure you
guys
have
seen the
nachos. Nachos
AWA,
make everything better.
Say that
when
again.
you guys watched who was in your mind, who was the best AWA champion that you've seen growing up, or not necessarily growing up, but even looked back on when you saw the repeats and everything? Who do you think was the best AWA champion in your mind?
There's only one.
Nick Bachman.
Yeah, there's only one.
Nick Bachman.
There's only one. There's only one.
Oh, there was
Yeah.
more. There was more than one champion.
No,
I gotta
I'm
go with
saying
Kurt
there's one best AWA, and that's Bachwinkle. He carried that thing with such grace. He was the Ric Flair of the AWA, or Ric Flair was the Nick Bachwinkle of the NWA.
Yeah, he was
That's
Ric
how I-
Flair before Ric Flair was Ric Flair.
Exactly.
Without the flamboyance. He didn't need the flamboyance. Because
Well,
my
he
God,
had
when you
Heenan.
saw Nick Bachwinkle come through that curtain and you saw him go into the ring, you knew business was about to pick up. He didn't even have to say a word.
But see, Bachwinkle was mental. He was more mental than Flair. He was more. He was more Jake the Snake Roberts, really, but not in the same way. If that makes sense, which I know it doesn't to most people because I'm weird.
Listen, it makes total sense because if you think
But you're
about
weird
it,
too, so that's why it makes sense to you.
Well,
but listen,
you can
Bachwinkle-
describe it in 2 words: ring psychology.
Oh,
Yeah.
easily. But that's
That's
the thing. Like, but Bachwinkle, the reason why that Jake the Snake is because Jake never had to yell, and Bachwinkle barely yelled. He didn't have to. Plus he had Big Mouth next to him, so he didn't have to say a word, really. But when he did speak, he spoke very eloquently, and he was going to make you a fool. If he went into that ring, he was going to make you feel and look stupid, and then beat you. That's why he was the best.
In my mind, Bachwinkle was superior to Flair in the fact that
Oh, yeah.
Bachwinkle could go out and wrestle 3 matches in a row, and he'd wrestle 3 different matches each time.
Mm-hmm.
And he could wrestle the same guy in those 3 matches. And each match would be different. Flair couldn't wrestle a different match in 6 months.
And most of those guys that came up in that time couldn't. Take Bret Hart, for example. And, I hate to talk bad about Bret Hart. As far as wrestling goes, I don't like the man, but he was a great wrestler as far as, great wrestlers can be in his era. But, you can predict the outcome of his match or the way that it's going to end every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Every time he gets in a routine, it's the same. Everybody harps on John Cena for only having 5 moves. Well, guess what? Bret Hart only had 5. When in the long run, at the end.
Mm-hmm. Same thing with
True.
Hogan. You knew Hogan out of everybody. You knew what he was. You knew
Well,
how
now-
that was empty.
You bring up Hogan. Now, Vern Gagne had Hogan for the longest, and of course he didn't take advantage of the situation because, like we mentioned the Animal earlier, Gagne was all about. He thought that the more technical type wrestler should be the one that leads your company as a champion and all, and it talks about in here about how Gagne had kind of teased a couple of times of Hogan winning the belt, but never giving it to him and taking it away the next week over some stipulation or taking it away the exact same night, stripping him of the belt. And the whole thing about Hogan leaving, Gagne was it was crazy when they let him go. But it says here that Gagne planned to have Hogan win the belt, but only if he would give Gagne the bulk of the revenues Hogan was earning from merchandise and his periodic main event performance in New Japan. Hogan did not like being strong-armed and refused, but he did offer a 50-50 split instead. Gagne refused and kept the belt from him, which made Hogan jump ship and go to WWE or WWF.
Which is why now we all get to sit around and watch the WWE Network.
Well, yeah. Look at Vern Gagne let go. Not only did he let Hogan go, but he let Ric Flair go because Ric Flair was trained by Vern Gagne and Billy Robinson.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he let the Iron Sheik go.
He did a lot of
the Iron Sheik hated Billy Robinson. So.
Yeah, Joe?
Yeah.
Hold on. Joe's got something to say, fellas.
We talked a lot about the Dusty finish. I think the Dusty finish was stolen from Vern Gagne because Gagne was infamous for stipulation finishes and stipulation belt changes. I mean, just like when the Road Warriors dropped the belts to Garvin and Regal. That was a bunch of BS. I mean, that was it was either a count out. I think it was by count out, wasn't it?
They had the Freebirds interfere. Michael Hayes interfered.
Yeah, but I think that they won the belts by a count out. And who wins a belt on a count out?
I don't remember what's count out or not. I can look at. Let me see if I can find out for you real quick. I don't recall that one for sure.
But you know, October 9th, 1954, the AWA was born, and that's where Vern Gagne kept it for the next 40 years.
That's kind of one of the popular things, yes. And you know, all these different talents that left whenever Hogan left as well. I mean, and then jumped ship. He also lost out on God, who else was it? There was Mean Gene, as an announcer standpoint, had went ahead and left as well. Adrian Adonis, Ken Patera, Jim Brunzell, David Schultz, Wendy Richter, Jesse Ventura. As it turned out, they said McMahon offered them more money to not work for the rest of their tenure there and come work for him. And the only one that really worked out his agreement with him was Bobby Heenan. He stayed with Vern and finished it out until he was done. Then he jumped ship and went to WWF. And that's when they kind of tanked a little bit. And then they kind of came back up again when the Road Warriors came in. And they had a whole new group of people. It seemed like it started back over again.
You had Martel as champion when he beat Pastruda. He had the Fabulous Freebirds. They came in. He had Stan Hansen come in. So he had guys coming in, and those are the guys that were And then he tried to do some like homegrown talent toward the end, and it just didn't work out. It didn't work out, even with the popularity of the Midnight Rockers and the such. By then they were tanking, and then the sign of the apocalypse is on the AWA when Bischoff shows up and becomes an announcer with his frosted hair. So.
Well, and during that time also is when you had Van Vader first come out. Leon the Baby Boy White. He came out during that time. You had the Nasty Boys, Medusa Maselli. You had the Trooper, Dale Wilkes, Jerry Martel,
the Lumberjacks, John Nord and Scott Norton.
Yes.
John Nord, the Barbarian.
Yeah. And just whoever, of course, we can't forget Zbyszko. Zbyszko and the Super Ninja. He had with him there now.
Zbyszko. Why did I forget about Zbyszko? He's awesome.
I don't know, but the whole Zbyszko and Bockwinkel, feud they had was a really good one. Because it was kind of technical. It was kind of technical, and Joe, not only technical, they could also duke it out when they wanted to also.
No, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So guys, I gotta pose a question. Of AWA guys that should have been the AWA World Heavyweight Champion that didn't get the opportunity to be.
Wow. Well, Hogan in his early days was popular with the fans. I mean, you would think that they would have put it on him because of his popularity. That would have been a good business move at least, but they never did. As far as somebody who deserved it, probably, who was there for a while and stood by the company, I don't think Jerry Blackwell ever had the title, did he? I don't remember if it was before my time. But if he didn't,
I don't think Blackwell ever had the title.
If he didn't, I would say Jerry Blackwell should have had at least temporarily, at least anyway, because he was popular with the fans. They liked him when he was a face. He was really hard hitting as a heel, So I mean, for someone who could have held that belt for a little bit, I think they could have done that and made something out of it with him, at least for a short run.
Yeah.
All right, KJ.
I don't. You know who I think would have been a great champion because he was so hated? De Beers. Colonel De Beers would have been a great champion. I would have put it on him.
That would have been a good
I'd
deal,
put it on
yeah.
De Beers. He would and have him for a few months. People hated him, especially what he did to Snuka. After what he did to Snuka and called him colored because he was black and all that, and Snuka was like an islander. He wasn't even. I just thought he was brilliant, and he knew how to piss people off. He could wrestle. He was deceptively strong. Yeah, I would have put it
Twist
on.
that mustache.
Yeah, with the mustache that he curls. He was brilliant, dude. But
The original
There's
pedigree.
no way he could. Yeah, there's no way now that I would believe he was from South Africa, though. So he certainly didn't speak like he was from South Africa.
No.
So, but yeah, that's my pick.
But who's next? Joe Teeters. Who's
Joe.
next? Joe.
I think I would have had to have gone with Scott Hall. I think they could have pushed him a little bit more. He was a new face. He was hot at the time. He had that whole Magnum TA thing going on for him. I think Scott Hall would have had a great run with it.
That's a good choice.
Absolutely.
Now, did Teeters go?
No, I was
Teeters.
going to say Scott Hall, but I'm going to mention somebody that was robbed all the way around. He ended up being an enhancement talent, even though he was loyal and he was a solid wrestler for a big guy. I'm going to talk about a jobber. Yes, that's what I'm going to talk about.
Jake the Milkman Milliman.
Yeah,
Iron Mike Sharp.
I knew it was coming.
You talk about these guys that are enhancement talents and being the greatest enhancement talent of all time, and you talk about guys like Steve Lombardi. Granted, the Brooklyn Brawler was good, but you put him in the ring with Jake Milliman, and Jake Milliman beat him like a striking mule.
Yeah.
Did he win the AWA Team Challenge Series in the final match?
Yeah.
Yes. As far as their little 5-man teams they had going on, Sergeant Slaughter had left. They put De Beers in his place, and they had Larry Zbyszko's, what were they called? Zbyszko's something or other.
Army?
I don't think it was Zbyszko's Army. It was something. But, yeah, the Milliman was the last one.
Yep.
It was kind of like the Maltese beating the Gladiators.
He could have been champion.
There you go.
I still think Milliman could have been a champion, and he could have had a successful run with him. People loved the guy. He was good. I mean, he was not the most technical, obviously, and I'm totally going against everything I stand for when I say that I think he should have been a champion, but I do. That's me.
No, I could see it, though. It's not like I can't see it. He was a tough little bad. It's the Rocky syndrome. Everybody, you know what I mean? Like, he's a little engine that could. And you put the title on him, and then you let him grow into a badass. Then yeah, definitely. He was over. He was over. It wasn't like he wasn't.
People love the guy. People talk about the guy. You can't have a conversation about the AWA and not mention that this doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
That is true. Mike, what do you think? Since you posed the question here, what was your pick?
For me, it's Ray Stevens. The man was a phenomenal wrestler.
I don't know how I forgot Ray Stevens. I don't know how I forgot him, but
Stevens.
I did.
Ray Stevens, multiple
Stevens.
AWA Tag Team Champion with Nick Bockwinkel.
Right.
He's never an AWA champion?
Wow. He was never AWA Heavyweight Champion. That man, to me, that was one of the biggest injustices in the AWA history because he was a phenomenal wrestler.
Are you kidding me? You know how many people say that he's like to consider him not only the best wrestler but the toughest guy they've ever met? Like they say he was a legit badass. So I'm surprised.
Playing on that one right there, moving on to tag teams. I mean, because I don't think they had. If they did, I don't remember if they had another singles belt on AWA. I think it was just the world title and the tag titles, wasn't it?
Did they not have a United States? Well, probably not.
American.
They had the American. They had the American.
Was it the American
Championship?
Okay.
Yeah, Sergeant Slaughter was the last one to hold it.
Okay. So tag teams, they had a lot of great tag teams come through over the years. You had everything from the the Road Warriors, obviously, the Freebirds. You had, of course, Baron von Raschke and what is it, Crusher Blackwell? Were tag teaming a bit. You had later on in the years, you had Bad Company, Paul Diamond, Pat Tanaka, the Wrecking Crew, Blue Meninus. Well, that sounded funny saying it that way, didn't it? Blue Meninus. That sounds so weird saying it that way. The Blue Meninus. They had it at one point in time, I think, Greg Gagne and Kurt Hennig. You had Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall tag teaming together at one point. The Fabulous Ones were there. The Midnight Rockers. You had Playboy Buddy Rose and Doug Summers.
Bill
so
Dundee
many different
and
teams
Jerry
come
Lawler.
through there. They did win the AWA tag titles one time, yes, but they were more Memphis than they were AWA.
They won them twice, Chris.
They
won them twice.
Oh, I know. Bill would kill us if he heard me not say that twice, right?
Bill's gonna come slap the shit out of you.
He probably could, if he knows where I live. I'm not telling him.
He probably will. I'm
not gonna tell him. I'm not gonna tell him where I live.
I'll tell him, and I'll send him a Western Union for gas money to go to your house and slap the shit out of you.
If he gets Randy Hales to come along and videotape it.
Hey, we'll put it on YouTube, man. We'll get some more views.
We'll have a brawl at my front yard.
I'll
sell it.
I see the headline now.
Sell it.
Chris Adams, the body slam the competitions, gets the dog piss slapped out of him by Bill Dundee for forgetting his second AWA Tag Team Championship reign.
Well, they did have a lot of great tag teams come through there, though. Is there, I don't know, Garvin, Regal, because they're the ones that took the belts from the Road Warriors, like Joe mentioned earlier. They were a tag team there at one point as well. But who did you think was one of the tag teams that stood out the most? And I'm talking actual tag teams, not two guys put together like when they put together maybe like, Stan Hansen and somebody else, like Brody and Hansen tag teaming for some reason, or, Blackwell and Hansen maybe, or somebody. I'm talking actual tag teams. Who do you think was you're the best one that come through there over the years? And, of course, we're going to say Road Warriors because Animal was a part of the show today. Other than the obvious with the Road Warriors being the best, let's just say who was second best over the years.
Nick Bockwinkel and Ray Stevens.
We got one for Bockwinkel and Stevens. We got a Freebirds.
Mike
or KJ?
I'm going homegrown, and I'm going Midnight Rockers, because if you go and watch their stuff, they were doing very innovative stuff. They were doing things that a lot of tag teams around the world, even the Rock and Roll Express, were not doing. And they did it well, so I'm going to go with them.
All right, Mike.
This one's a difficult one for me, because I want to go a lot of the same direction the other guys are going, but I'm not. I want to go back. I want to go back in time to the the Kamilkoffs, Ivan and Carol. They were multiple time AWA Tag Team Champions, and they were an actual tag team, not just two guys thrown together, by the way. And I think they ran from about 53 till 66, 67, and they had multiple title reigns, and they were, to me, that they were just so dominant in the early days that you just can't forget the history.
Kalmikoff, very nice. I had forgotten about the Kalmikoff. Thank you for that, Mike.
Well, see, you didn't forget. You just had a momentary. See, the thing about it is that the IQ has such a vast amount of information in his mind that every now and then he misplaces a bit of it in that mental Rolodex. So he didn't really forget. He had just misplaced it. He had misplaced that file.
This is true.
So what about you, Chris?
I think that at some point in my knowledge, I've got to have those captures so I can fit new information in there.
Is it like that episode of Married with Children when Al is trying to teach Kelly about sports and she starts forgetting about other things like Garfield, breathing, eating?
Freeze pumpkin. breathe.
If it weren't for wrestling, I don't know that I would have much of a purpose other than what I do for a living.
I think I would put Bad Company out there.
That's
I
a
did.
good-
I did like watching Bad Company. I saw Diamond and Tanaka before they were a tag team when they wrestled solos in Memphis, and when Tanaka teamed with Jeff Jarrett as well. When they put them together for a tag team, I thought, it's a good pairing right there. That could work. They could do something with that. And then they bring in Diamond Dallas Page for the manager, and not only are they bad, but they're BADD Bad Company, and people took to that. I mean, and they were heels, but people still kind of took to it because of the lifestyle they portrayed with their character. Basically, it was pretty cool. I mean, and they were pretty fun to watch when they were on there.
And Vince did them wrong when they went to WWE when he gave Paul Diamond the mask and made him the Orient Express. That was just stupid.
Yes.
Isn't that the story of Vince McMahon though? He gets a hold of something and he ruins it.
Yep.
That's why I asked the animal that earlier. Was there ever any question? And I loved his answer. You damn well knew better not to. I've always wondered. Everybody else seem like the bad gimmick tossed on them when they get there, because they've been with another company before, but they got to come in and keep the name and the same image and the same gimmick, and there was no question about it. And it was like he said, they were pretty no nonsense when it come to it, and it just wasn't happening any other way. If you want us there, you're going to get us. You're not going to get something else.
I think the worst he ever done with changing somebody was Adrian Adonis.
Oh, make the tough guy into the adorable one.
That's one of my top two.
What's your other one? Come on.
The other one's Terry Taylor and the Red Rooster. I will never, ever, 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 ever forgive Vince McMahon for that.
Oh, no.
Terry Taylor should have been a world champion.
Me and Joe talked at least before about Terry Taylor. Terry Taylor's had great matches in the past with a lot of people. Terry Taylor and Ric Flair had great matches. Terry Taylor and Chris Adams had great matches. Terry Taylor, as a solo wrestler, put on some good stuff. And I got on that best of the Mid-South CDs I've got. They got him on there wrestling with Magnum as well against the Midnight Express a few times. They had some good matches with them.
I think Terry Taylor should have been a member of the Four Horsemen.
No shit. Yeah, absolutely. As if the Red Rooster thing wasn't bad enough. Then he goes back to WCW and they make him a fucking Ted DiBiase knockoff. Use my language, but
Terrence Taylor.
Yes, self-made man. The Taylor
not as bad
man
as Richard Morton.
Richard
Morton.
The whole Richard Morton thing came when Robert Gibson was injured and he couldn't wrestle, so they had to do something with Ricky Morton.
Still bad. It doesn't matter.
It wasn't the greatest idea because he's not. He said himself when he was on here. Making me into a heel probably wasn't the most believable thing to do, but he's probably one of the biggest baby faces there ever was.
And so they make him a part of the York Exchange.
He took it and ran with it. He did a decent job with the heel in Memphis as well when they went down there and when they were Smoky Mountain, going up against Memphis. When you had the Rock and Roll Express and Tracy Smothers and Pat Tanaka. Terry Gordy was a part of it at one point too. But that is the whole thug thing they did. So he did a pretty decent job selling it there as well. But Terry Taylor, you're talking about people being should have been a full horseman. What about Gino Hernandez? You think he could have played a good horseman? I mean, I think he could have pulled it off.
Dude, that unfortunately was one of the most tragic things in wrestling. Gino Hernandez died because his charisma was off the charts. That guy, and he could wrestle too. He could have. And
he had history with Tully Blanchard.
Yeah,
right.
He could piss you off in a minute. He was that good at being a heel. He would have been perfect in the Horseman, as far as I'm concerned. He would have been perfect.
Now, and as far as back to the AWA for a bit, some of the heavy hitters that were there, they've had some big, tough guys come through there, obviously, in the past. I mean, Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody are the two most notable, I'm sure, as far as individuals go. But do you guys have a favorite that was, a heavy hitter through there, that was the big, tough guy, no nonsense, that was not a Vern Gagne-type prototype guy, but was there and was, just beating people up right and left? Mike, what about you?
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, you know, one of our former guests, the Patriot, when he was there as the Trooper, he was kind of like that no-nonsense, heavy-hitting kind of guy.
Yeah.
Write you the ticket when he's done.
Oh, yeah.
You're under arrest.
Yeah.
Jeff?
Man, there's so many. When I think that whenever Brody came into AWA as King Kong Brody and he was annihilating people, which is what Brody did.
Mm.
Brody's just one of those guys that, he fits every facet of everything that you'd want, in my opinion, in that kind of wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
All right, KJ?
I'm also going with Brody, and one of the things that's funny is I didn't get AWA at the time, but I would read the after mags, and one of them was at the ringside where after would write, and it said there's a picture of Brody with his finger in his mouth and like his eyes are wide and everything, and under the caption said Brody puts Brunzell and Gagne in the hospital within 1 month, and I was just like, he's a god. Right then and there, I was like, he's a god. So I'm going with Brody. He just came in, destroyed people, and just walked out. He was a force of nature. That's why I love Brody. Brody's my favorite wrestler of all time, because he's a force of nature. I don't think there's anybody like him, singular, that was like that, except for maybe Brock. But even then, I'm going with Brody.
No, Joe?
Well, I mean, Brody's a great choice, obviously. I would say Leon White, but then again, he wasn't quite Vader yet. But if I had to pick one, I would have to go with Abdullah the Butcher. If you were getting into the ring with Abdullah the Butcher, you were getting hurt.
I was wondering if somebody was going to remember Abdullah or not. I was going to save him. If y'all wouldn't have saved him, I was going to save him. But I thought surely one of these guys is going to remember Abdullah the Butcher and bring him up.
Listen, if you're bringing up Brody, you're bringing up Abdullah. It's just the way it is.
I know. It's something that... Now, if I'm going to pick one, I'm going to stick with Hansen, because Stan Hansen was no-nonsense, tough, knock you down on your butt if you looked at him, funny kind of guy. And that clothesline, that lariat, was probably the best clothesline in all of wrestling, pretty much. I mean, the Russian sickle was good at times, but every time that lariat got hit, it looked vicious. The only one that comes close to it is going to be John P. Layfield, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Doing his.
You know what, Chris? I want to change my answer.
What?
Oh, you are?
Yes. I want to change my answer because I forgot. Mad Dog Vachon.
Oh, good one. Son of a bitch. That was a good one.
Because I remember Nick Bockwinkel and all those. He was an animal. He wasn't even a human, and it was just so wrong for the champion, for Nick Bockwinkel, to have to get into the ring with the man that was so dangerous, and he didn't follow the rules. And every excuse that Bockwinkel could come up with to stay out of the reach of Mad Dog Vachon.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
That's
I want to ask you guys a question and see what you think about this, the comparison of it. When Jerry Blackwell broke apart from Sheik Donnell Casey and his group and everything and started taking them on and fighting them all the time, do you see any comparison to him taking on that army by himself and Jimmy Valiant taking on the Paul Jones army?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I remember who was in that little Adnan Al-Casey group was Ken Patera. Can't remember who else was in that. But anyway,
he also brought in like Abdullah. He brought in Brody and Von Raschke. I think at one point come in with it and everything. He had fights against pretty much all these guys, and all due to the Sheik and everything, bringing them in on him. It kind of reminded me of Paul Jones in a way. Where Paul Jones would get funny enough, Von Raschke was a part of that as well, of that group, and he got Manny Hernandez to turn on him. He got Pez Whatley to turn on him. He brought in Rick Rude. and all these things. And Valiant seemed like he was the one-man army against him until he had Bugsy McGraw,
Rocky Jones.
Rocky Jones, yes, he had a little bit of help here and there, but it seemed like it was mostly Jimmy Valiant versus the Paul Jones army, like a solo, almost like a one-man deal there. It just kind of reminded me of Blackwell in a way in his deal against the Sheik during that time. Which would be kind of like how they would say that different territories would kind of take ideas from each other and kind of rehash them in a way or somehow. I tell you what we should have asked earlier. Thought just came to mind. Animal mentioned earlier that there'd be another company come up soon, that the WWE would not continue to be leading the pack like they are, that there's going to be another company come up, and you need another 3 or 4 good companies for wrestling to really, sustain itself and stuff. We should have asked him, in his opinion, some of these up-and-coming companies, what he thought would be the next one to step up. Which one do you think he would have picked if you could take a guess at it? Would you think he would have sided with?
Oh man, that's tough.
At this point, any of them. At this point, it could be any of them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, some of them are kind of ahead of the game as the others. It seems like as well, though. Like you'd think Lucha would be a step ahead of TNA because TNA is up in question for sure.
But
still, even though they kind of cleared that up.
Lucha's format isn't conductive to really making them WWE big.
No, God, no. Too much BS telenovela crap.
And Ring of Honor just doesn't seem to have the desire. I mean, they might have they might have the tools, but they've had the tools for a long time, and
they've had nothing but tools.
Well, I'll tell you one that could do it if they had the financial backing. PWG.
Now, where are they based out of?
I'm not sure where they're based out of, but man, they had so much good talent, and one of their biggest talents is now signed with WWE and getting ready to debut in NXT, and I can't wait. I don't know if you know who Tommy End is.
Have not heard that one. No.
Tommy End is a badass, plain and simple. Pay attention to NXT, and I'm sure you're going to see great things out of him.
Now, Chris, if Jeff Jarrett could get his Global Force Wrestling a media deal of some sort, with the mind of Jeff Jarrett, it would have a chance.
I think they could definitely build something out of it. Yes, I'm sure they could. Some of these other, have you guys heard of one called Evolve? Is that a group or is that just an event they have?
No, it's a company. It's a company.
Because I just heard the guy that was with ECW for a while, I think it was Joey Styles, his name. I think they just let him go from that company, fired him from there for something.
He made a Trump
I just seen where Jason Kincaid just went there and made a debut.
Or if you've entered the wrong mailbox.
Okay.
What the hell was that?
Yeah.
I was about to ask you guys if y'all heard that. I don't know.
I think we just lost Joe, so something must have happened with him right there. That must have been his phone giving him an issue.
No,
Chris, you were talking
my
about
YouPorn account.
You were talking about Evolve. Evolve is actually who WWE partnered with to find talent for the Cruiserweight Classic.
Okay. Well, I haven't been paid attention.
Well, that's where those guys like Noam Dar and all those guys came from.
Okay. Well, I know Jason Kincaid just made his appearance there at that at Evolve thing this past weekend, so I just wonder how much longer it is before he gets to step up maybe to that Cruiserweight area or even NXT. But, guys, I wasn't paying attention to the time. I'm sorry. We've actually got a minute left on the show. It's counting down on us now. So we didn't touch, I guess, real deep on AWA, but we covered all the high spots, the World Championship, the Tag Team Championship, the most brutal probably, the highlights of it and everything. And it was great having Animal on the show with us. We do thank him for coming on the show once again. Jeff, KJ, Joe, if you're still listening out there, I see I got your message. You had to leave. I'm sorry you had to go. Thanks, guys, for coming on tonight and sitting in with us and popping the questions out for us and keeping the conversation going. Definitely appreciate that. And everybody out there that is listening to this show tonight, Make sure you go to us here at Blog Talk Radio and follow us and subscribe. And check us out on YouTube as well and subscribe to the channel. We'll have more things coming other than just the podcast as well to add on to that. Maybe Mr. Killjoy and Mr. Teeters here might throw a video from time to time your way for their vast knowledge that they have. But in the meantime, Mike, get it in real quick.
New Day rocks.
We'll see you guys next week.